Something like this: the road ahead has never been more clear. Success belongs to those who take the lead. Welcome to Dealer Insights, podcast that puts you in the driver's seat of growth. Hosted by me, Michael Donovan. Oh, it says Vin Machici. Hosted by, let's just say, this is where experience meets innovation. From cutting-edge technology to game-changing strategies, we go beyond the surface to bring you insights that matter. Real conversations to help you navigate the ever-changing automotive landscape. Buckle up. Your next competitive advantage starts now. So that's that part. I'll just put a little, it's amazing what some editing can do.
Dude, it's amazing that you weren't a radio host at one point in your life.
I hear that. I have imposter syndrome. I have imposter syndrome with that.
Yeah.
I don't hear myself like that, but I hear that often. So check this out. If your dealership still treats SEO like a checklist, simply put, you're losing. The game has changed, and AI isn't just part of the change, is the change. In 2011, I was invited to speak on a panel at Digital Dealer on the best of the best, demystifying SEO. The things that have changed since then are vast, and the landscape is being redesigned from the ground up. In order to bring high value and information dealers like you really want, I knew I had to find a high-powered individual that can do more than talk the talk. Welcome, everybody, back to another episode. We're changing things up a little bit with Dealer Insights Podcast. My name's Michael Donovan with Strolid, VP of Marketing, and we're talking about the evolution of SEO in automotive. And again, that high-powered individual, I'm here with Matt. Matt, thanks for showing up, man.
Yeah, Mike, good to be here, man.
Why don't you give us the elevator pitch on what you're up to?
Yeah, so, I think what we saw early on, this is about 2.5 years ago, as the LLMs hit the market, is that AI represented windfall change for the industry, especially around areas that represent tremendous headwind and redundancy for dealers in their day-to-day workflow. We set out to slay a number of different dragons in the space, right? Like the opportunities were obvious to us. What sort of got HRIZN focused on our first product offering and delivering this was really feedback from our dealer advisors, our agency advisors, sort of dragging us toward this thing. Boy, if you could, this would be amazing. And so today, I guess last week we went open beta with a first of its kind content marketing platform for automotive. We empower automotive marketers in general to 10x content quality, 10x speed to market, and 10x productivity. All of that while driving significant cost reductions across a number of content and communication operations. So the canvas is fairly wide, right? I don't love to be pigeonholed into SEO because it's one piece of what we do, but we're looking to really deliver meaningful tools to automotive marketers to better deploy content at scale that is helpful and delivering meaningful user experiences, and then ties nicely into all of the other things that they do from a paid marketing and strategic perspective.
We've had some conversations, and we've kicked this can down the road long enough. I was really, again, appreciative of you joining me here today on this topic.
That's my pleasure.
SEO is, it just has a real special place in my heart when it's done well. And, I've always been that white hat. Let's do it right. Let's roll our sleeves up and figure it out. It started out for me, it was very exploratory. Let's try this here. Let's try this here. And I'm thinking back to when I worked for the Leah Auto Group, director of search marketing. And the first order of business was SEO. And when I had that speaking engagement out with Old Phil Sura, man, shout out to Phil with Wayne Ussery and Andy Graff. And, I was the young buck for sure, but I was the only one sitting up there. And this isn't I'm not taking a shot at anybody. I was the only one that was on that stage that was actually doing the work, right? The other guys were talking about their vendors. And what's interesting with HRIZN is, it's very neutral. It fits for anybody. And it also, if you're a single point franchise dealer and you're thinking, can I use HRIZN? Yes, you can. If you're a major automotive group publicly traded on the New York Stock Exchange, it fits for you, and everywhere in between. And it branches out, right? You have that horizontal movement into marketing agencies, vendors, SEO vendors, even. I mean, sure, it fits. And it's almost like I can see the dots being connected, as Vin says, right? Where you've built this platform that you've built a platform that is looking into the future a little bit, in the sense that prompt writing and managing your content as a whole is going to be a new position that I think we're going to find more commonplace in dealerships, in agencies, in the fabric of content creation. And before we start peeling those layers back, I wanted to have a little session with you talking about like the old game, and the message here for everyone listening is what got you here won't get you there. So what's that mean? Like, let's do a little like
Yeah,
back and forth on some old tactics: white hat, black hat, gray hat. What comes to
boy.
mind when you think
That's a big plate to carve through. So I think how do we tackle this efficiently? So the last 2 years have represented a fairly seismic shakeup on Google's part, right? Make no mistake that the helpful content update over the breadth of its pieces over the last couple of years represents one of the largest algorithm shifts, probably the largest algorithm shift in Google's history. And don't doubt for a moment that it's not driven by the rise of AI, both in their internal infrastructure and external competitors that they see coming. But what did it used to be, right? Well, early on, it started with, you know, what we would today call very black and gray hat stuff. I'm gonna stuff a bunch of meta keywords behind the page that have like zero relevance to my page and get it to rank. I'm going to try and manipulate meta descriptions. Then I'm going to try and manipulate backlink architecture, go out and buy backlinks, et cetera, et cetera, et cetera, right? Like there's always been sort of this give and take and this play between Google, changing the way that they sort of prioritize or weight their algorithm. And then SEOs, both white hat, gray hat, and black hat, all trying to sort of do the best they can within the new framework and infrastructure. And don't doubt that that won't continue. Google has, they support a broad ecosystem of developers and SEOs and content writers and creators of all types with that algorithm, right? And there is a healthy sort of relationship between Google's continued evolution and the livelihood of all of the people that provide content for Google to deliver to other consumers. However, a lot of sort of the hidden stuff got blown out of the water quite some time ago. And over the last maybe 10 or 15 years, there has emerged some clarity to sort of what we would call white hat practices, right? Create relevant content. And the practice for quite some time has been to create content that's optimized for keywords, right? Configure my writing style and the saturation of keywords to sort of rank for this thing that I'm trying to rank for when somebody types it into Google. Have strong backlink strategies to drive valid backlinks site to site. Sure, that's mattered over the past 10 years. And then, focus on user experience from a site speed and loading perspective and whatnot. The fundamental challenge for automotive dealers is when an automotive site is fully deployed with 20 26 vendor tags that the dealer has put on, and the 13 that they forgot were already there. And, the website not supporting WebP images or whatever, right? Like there are inherent technical pieces that slow down dealer websites. Simply the turn of inventory and the failure to alt tag inventory images, right? Like you run an audit on any dealer website, you're going to get a mountain of technical errors. Many of those fundamentally unsolvable due to requirements from OEMs and OEM programs and website providers, et cetera. So there's been an ongoing game of like, oh, look, your site's bad. Check out my audit. And then we're going to do this technical stuff and it's going to get better. And to a varying degree, SEO providers in automotive do good or not so good jobs in creating the, sort of customer facing content, model landing pages, comparison pages, model reviews, service pages. One thing they've always struggled with is really good blog posting, right?
Yeah.
But what's happened as part of helpful content is Google has totally shifted the focus. They've said, hey, content creators, stop trying to optimize for a keyword. Start trying to deliver helpful experiences to the user, right? And by extension, that will deliver helpful experiences to AI bots that consume and deliver your content to users via Google and frankly other LLMs, right? And so it's put the focus really back on truly quality content, right? Like AI, even for the last 3 or 4 years, for many SEO shops has been a tool, right? Oh, I'm going to use it to trailblaze some content and do it faster and post it to the site. Or I'm going to use it for ideas or what have you. But now, like, as Google continues to make these shifts, we saw it in the March core update where, like, Google came in wholesale and said, look, scaled content, we're going to penalize at the maximum possible rate. What does that mean to automotive? Well, that means everybody who's generating blog posts directly in ChatGPT and pasting them across to their website, penalized at the highest possible rate. People trying to write vehicle descriptions with Gemini and post them to their inventory, penalized at the highest possible rate. People who have bought cookie cutter SEO packages from unnamed website providers for years that just have tokenized injections of dealer name, address, phone number, etc.
Yeah.
Penalized at the highest possible rate. So what we saw in March was like just this mass decline of overall website rankings for a lot of dealers on content that they frankly, and in their defense, had spent tens and hundreds of thousands of dollars building over the last 10 years. So I guess in a nutshell, that's what's happening. And is how it is evolving from where it was over the last 10, 15, and even 20 years. I would say that, yeah, it presents a massive threat, but at the same time presents tremendous opportunity, right? It's almost a table clearing of sorts that for dealers that are now strategic and proactive in how they collaborate with AI to deliver content experiences, right? Like, it's redefining what good content looks like when done right.
You just said something that I really want to stress. Collaborate with AI. It is not a copy and paste. You can be penalized. All of this information is accessible. I suppose I could put a link in the description to Google's guidelines. You can read it yourself, specifically on scaled content. Now, don't be mistaken. It's not going to give us like all of the signals that factor into the algorithm. And, it's not groundbreaking, but I think is oftentimes overlooked. And maybe for more of that forward thinking dealer or marketing director, e-commerce director, BDM that's involved in the marketing at the store or the group, it could be interesting and things to think about.
Yeah, I mean, the good news about helpful content is Google is very clear about what not to do.
Right.
They're not going to tell you necessarily all the things you need to do to be at the top of Google, right? Like they still view that as a competitive space for creators to create and win and learn. But what they will tell you is what not to do. And it's sort of core in the fiber of the HRIZN DNA, right? Like we wanted HRIZN to very much be not a hack, but a white hat type of environment where a creator can collaborate with AI to drastically improve content quality, productivity, and results, right? Because one of the biggest headwinds for content results is the ability to produce and deploy said content. And so if we can meet our customer with more helpful content experiences in more places, more of the time, we're going to see more positive results, not only from the content itself, but also for what that authoritative content footprint does for all of the other pages in our site, right? It becomes a rising tide that lifts all the boats. And also the sort of echo effect that it has on quality score on all the paid advertising that I'm driving across to my website. Because there is this inherent relationship between quality score and what you actually pay for a click on a particular ad directing to a particular piece of content. So we think of it as sort of very holistic and has its hand in the hand of marketing. It has its hand in the hand of fixed ops. It has its hand in the hand of customer experience, lifecycle management. Neil Patel, and I'm paraphrasing, he brings up good points in this space, right? One of the tests he did was extensive. This was actually a couple years old now, when there were a lot of myths flying around about AI content being penalized. And now after March core update, that is definitely true. But what he looked at was like, how well does AI only content perform versus human only content? And at the time, it was pretty even. And then what about human plus AI collaborating to create great content? And that was head and shoulders above the other two. And that's sort of the needle that we've tried to thread, is to deliver an environment where humans can collaborate effectively with AI to deliver helpful content experiences to their customers.
So very well said. A lot to unpack there, but in an effort to keep the conversation going and just that real actionable takeaway for any of the listeners and viewers, would you say SEO is more similar to plumbing, where you plumb everything in and you check, okay, it's all working, no leaks, and you walk away, set it and forget it? Or with this new collaboration, leveraging the power of AI, is it more like a Formula One pit crew and race team, where we're really looking at our results and picking up a tenth of a second on a lap here and changing tires at this time, and it's more involved? Like, how, or are we somewhere in between?
Yeah, I mean, here, I think it's very much, I think, I'll steal another Patelism, which is, he talks about SEO evolving into search everywhere optimization, right? And I almost think about it as, less about SEO and more about sort of like establishing a pulse to your store, what you're about, leading with customer first. How do I deliver the things, the answers to the questions my customer has wherever they're at in the journey, right? And then through that answer, also offer up other helpful experiences that direct them to inventory or my current specials or my service offers or any other things that may then be helpful when they realize that I have been helpful to them, right? There's some sort of inherent reciprocity that exists when you stamp an authoritative footprint in the market. What I will tell you is Google will consume as much as you can give. For any dealership, what we find is that probably only 15% of dealers have a disciplined enough sort of process and accountability to create content with consistency week in, week out, month in, month out. And that's not a knock on dealers. It's just sort of a byproduct of the chaos that exists in the car dealership every month. And, for any of us that have lived it for any long period of our career, we know how it is, right? Like there's always some fire going off on your desk. And that's why agencies remain highly relevant in this space, right? And that's why agencies That's why we have an agency partner program. That's why we lean on high quality agencies to provide a service layer on top of HRIZN and support them however they may need us. But yeah, like we're not going to compete as your SEO vendor. That's not what we are. What I will tell you though is that, we do have dealers that consistently execute in-house and create a piece of content a day. And I will tell you the volume impact of organic traffic year over year is staggering, right? It's in the thousands of percentiles of visibility and reach expansion. It's, you know, 2x traffic increases, right? Like if you're not getting 2 to 5x the volume of ASC conversions on your website from organic that you are unpaid, it's time to look for some improvement there.
So the new reality is content creation, search everywhere optimization. I like that, by the way, and I agree
Hey,
with that.
it's not a me thing. We'll credit Neil Patel with that one.
Yeah, for sure. Definitely a Patelism. That's how you're going to gain a competitive edge. Don't get caught standing still. And I would also like to make a point, and I'm not, I don't want this to be misinterpreted, but all SEO is not created equal. How one vendor, agency, or provider performs SEO, it could be drastically different to what you might find elsewhere.
Yeah,
And I'm not,
1,000%.
yeah,
And to that point, just before I lose it, because
sure.
I got ADD. You know, there is nothing about what we've put into the world that diminishes the value of the agency, right? The best agencies I know bring a tremendous layer of human firepower to the mix from a strategy perspective, from a creative perspective, et cetera, right? So like we feel like the accelerant fuel that HRIZN represents will make agencies exponentially more powerful at what they do, right? So I think it's for every dealer in the country, frankly, for every agency in the country, it's why we give HRIZN away. Like everybody can sign up for free, get a taste of what it does. We have usage-based pricing, so it's really easy to adopt and work into and evolve and develop, whether you're an agency, in-house marketing team, or a dealer that whose internet manager wants to go explore what's possible, right? Like we really have built it for the content creator wherever they may exist. But yeah, like in a lot of cases, the agency is the right avenue. And then collaborate with that agency to coordinate your content strategy with the paid ad copy that you're putting into the wild and the social that you're putting into the wild, right? Like the agency provides like this powerful hub to start to syndicate and ensure that, there's sort of flow of strategy and ideas and collaboration across the vendor base. So we're big proponents of agencies. We have a lot of agency partners. And but also have really tried to make this a meaningful tool in the context of anybody can learn it in 10 to 15 minutes and start leveling up their content market.
So, I mean, I'm a big agency fan, right? And basically, building this pseudo internal agency at Strolid so we can manage our marketing. But it's like all of the experience and with what you've shared about the tool, I thought it was important to me to share. Again, I have this affinity for SEO. It's been the cornerstone of my entire professional career in automotive. I've learned a lot. I've tried a lot. I've had lots of failures. And what I'm seeing with HRIZN and, really the core of this podcast is to deliver insight to dealers and so they can act on it. And I don't want to get ahead of myself, but you've made it very easy for a
Yeah.
dealer or whatever their makeup is, whatever their stack looks like. whether the dealer is listening now and kicks it to their agency or someone internally, you've made it very easy.
Yeah, we really don't discriminate, right? Like fundamentally, my co-founder and I, we both come from backgrounds in marketing at different times in our career. We've worked on either, publisher, agency, etc., or have worked in the vendor space. But we both also bring, individually our own decade of retail experience to the mix. And just like a lot of the little sort of nuances of the software, we've really tried to solve some of the pain that we felt in the past, right? So, setup and implementation, right? Like what do you hear from most, vendors that come into the dealership like, hey, we got a game-changing piece of software and it's going to be $1,000 setup fee and 30-day setup and implementation, and you got to sign a 120-day contract and blah, 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 blah. And Dave and I always sort of hyperbolized, like, let's embrace the prove it model, put our money where our mouth is, right? Let's give it away to every dealer in the country first and foremost. Let's enable them to set up and implement in 10 minutes or less. And let's just let them experience some of the magic that we're trying to deliver. And trust that if we just go deliver great product, the community will respond.
Yeah, and the cost of not doing anything at all with SEO at this point, I think that's a pretty high price to pay.
Yeah, I mean, here it's a bit of the Ricky Bobby paradox, right?
Okay.
The tools that are out there now, like, not to toot our own horn, like there are other content tools. We're convinced that ours is significantly better and more built for automotive than anything else out there. But fundamentally, like if you are racing this race or standing still in this race against someone with even the most, rudimentary AI driven strategy, the gap is expanding in a massive way quickly. If you're up against a HRIZN dealer in your market, the gap could be very difficult to close in a short period of time because it really truly is like just a brute force footprint expansion on your market that you basically have to double or triple the workflow of the guy that started 6 months ago to ever catch them, which if they're a power producer will be hard to do. So it's interesting times, right? And we're not definitely trying to deliver advantage to everyone, but early adoption, consistency of execution will win in this space, as it always has, long before AI was a piece of it.
That's right. And it's the current force multiplier, okay? So that being said, it's all about how you use it, the workflow, the frequency, the schedule, understanding, and don't be afraid to fail. Like
But yeah,
roll your
go break
sleeves
stuff,
up
fail
and
fast mentality,
yes.
embrace it, build, test, learn, repeat. We believe we're setting up a pretty fun environment to do that and eliminate as many, as much potential for failure as possible. Like it really truly does put enough guardrails on the AI and enough training to maintain a tremendous amount of consistent strategy across the content collection.
So
Obviously, we have doors that are cracked open all around us, right? I've always been, having been in the ad tech space and done some exploratory work and whatnot, like I always have been a big believer in innovate your product well, but integrate everywhere. Sort of like the antithesis of build the vertical monopoly and make everybody use our product, more like fit in where we need to fit in, integrate with everything that makes it a nimble and helpful tool, sort of a Swiss Army knife, if you will. So there's doors that are sort of cracking open to us everywhere. We embrace conversations with CMS platforms, CRM companies that want to modernize their CRMs with automotive trained content. advertisers that want help deploying ad copy at scale, like you name it, right? We're really just exploring all avenues and seeing where we can support this industry in its evolution.
So we kind of touched on it. This is a perfect pivot point to again continue to evolve this conversation to bring some value. And you know, you mentioned earlier content creation. This isn't just SEO. SEO is very important. And with the recent core algorithm update, it has been like a rug pull to a lot of dealers, a lot of agencies, vendors, website providers, and that's caused it's almost like a factory reset, right? But let's just step back. Every dealer has access to these tools and resources. We can understand that the AI collaboration is the force multiplier, figuring out the strategy and having the surrounding yourself with the right people that you trust that have experience. What Matt just shared with us is, his tool was built, but it was also not built from just a technical, innovative perspective, but also through the lens of retail, tier 3 retail automotive, and the experience that he and Dave have had in the industry. So I think that's an important part. And I've mentioned it in previous episodes that you should be buying the experience, right? And aligning with those companies that get it. So with
Yeah,
content
automotive,
creation,
it's
with
just a
con
really unique space, right? Like
yeah,
so many companies try and break in and they miss a lot of the nuance for many years to really solve for what the dealer needs. And so we think we have some advantage there, right? Like
yeah,
we have some tools that are really built for automotive in the way that we like process inventory and automate descriptions, the way that we train around language and compliance and ensure that like we brute force LLMs to not invent facts and statistics and everything else because we're cognizant of the compliance environment too. So like, yeah, I mean, can other tools help with this? Absolutely. Like if you're not using a tool, you're falling behind. And frankly, if you are using one today, fantastic. And if you're feeling pain with that, those are probably pain points that we've solved pretty effectively or are in the process of solving. So yeah, I mean, we don't want to make this an all about us, right? It's more just there has to be a change in the thinking of how content marketing and the content strategy intertwines with customer lifecycle management, customer
yes.
experience, fixed ops, marketing, F&I, warranty and service contract penetration, et cetera. Like all of these things sort of go hand in glove. And that's where we see HRIZN as a powerful piece, right? As it sort of understands the brand voice and the store and the market and how we want to talk about these things collectively and sort of bleeds that unique DNA of the store across content collections. So
And
yeah, I mean, MarTech's all converging, right? I
yeah,
think if you ask Elon, he's going to tell you that like the robots are going to do everything. Well, what will people do? Well, you don't have to worry about it because nothing will cost anything once the robots do everything. But I mean, if you make no money now, any money is expensive. I'm a little less dystopian. I think, the future will fall somewhere between where we are at today and his vision of the world. And I think, you know, there are a lot of AI founders out there beating the drum that like, oh my God, like we're here to empower your people, not replace them. I would tend to agree, but I think that's a disingenuous statement. Fundamentally, AI will replace millions of jobs, and it's inherent upon the people that are doing those jobs and the leaders that are leading them to envision how they deliver value in a world where their redundant task work is eliminated. And that's part of the evolution that we'll go through. I can't recall who the interview was with, but I was watching an interview. It was really a snippet of an interview, but the statement was that the generation before ours was the last generation to manage only humans. And the future generation of managers will manage humans and bots. right? And I think part of it's just, taking a pragmatic look because, hey, let's face it, all of us in automotive know that AI has been a buzzword for 10 years, not two. Most of the AI buzz for many years was nothing more than like basic conditional logic or maybe, some slightly more advanced Markov chain machine learning models. The state we're at today is definitively different than that. And every company is trying to inject it into their system somewhere to make the object more shiny. Right. So I
Yeah,
think it's
and
important to go in pragmatically and say, okay, out of all the things that we've seen, what are the most empowering across the broadest footprint of our dealer where we can see the impact on the actual workflow and productivity of our people? And then test and learn,
yeah,
right? I'm watching, I don't know if you've seen it, like the whole viral deal of Oliver Widger, the discount tire employee in Oregon that like quit his corporate job and bought a sailboat and
yeah,
is sailing across the Pacific alone with his cat right now, right?
yeah. Heading to
Um,
Hawaii.
yeah.
Yeah,
I mean, it's the first leg of his around the world. And he mentioned he was talking to some like seasoned old sailor who had been doing it all his life or the majority of his life. And the guy sort of chuckled at him and he's like, talk to me all you want about sailing around the world, but I hear it from lots of people, and 98% of them never leave the leave the harbor. And so I think a big piece of it, like there's things to be drawn from that, right? Like there's a lot of unknowns, but if you've historically been a late adopter, this is not the time to be that because early adopters are getting a significant amount. It will be hard to catch.
yeah, and it's important that you understand this is so much more than a line item on an invoice.
Yeah, it's pervasive. I mean, literally the point where, JP Morgan and, Jamie Dimon have issued pretty stern concerns about AI, right? I am not the guy that's going to sit there and say, AI is going to run everything next year because we see it. Like we are hands in the soil deep in this space, and left unchecked, AI pretty quickly veers into doing things that you do not want it to do. And so there is and will continue to be, I believe, a distinct need for leaders and creators in the business to remain hands-on in collaboration with AI. And
Yeah, and
that will be the 10-year interim. And maybe sure it'll start to take over more and more pieces, but I think what you'll find, as with any sort of wholesale seed change like this, that the AI consumption of redundant processes will open up new opportunities for job creation we haven't thought about yet for humans to be exponentially more valuable to the process in new ways.
right. Oh, and I like how you said, really inspect what you expect, test, keep an eye.
Fail fast.
Yeah. So let me put you on the spot a little bit. And if you had to, you bump into a dealer in passing that what he wants the roadmap. He wants like give me that 3-step kind of game plan roadmap. What's that look like?
Yeah, I think the first thing to really think about is probably your customer and how well your site is actually aligned with um, meeting customer at their point of intent. Um, for the last 20 years, we've built things to sort of, I almost think of them as like, a bit of a fly trap type of deal. Like, oh, hey, get them to the landing page and convert them.
Right.
um, but I think, and in everybody's defense, like content creation was a grind, really hard to do all the things. Like in my former life, selling dynamic search and, just dynamic headline matching inventory, all that stuff.
Yep.
Like we always used to talk about like, hey, SEO, focus on the 10 to 20 core keywords for the business, maybe even 100.
Yeah.
But like that, you should keep the focus in SEO small in the core. And then for all the crazy long tail queries that shoppers ask, use paid to just capture people and put them into the most relevant experience possible, whether that's your homepage, your service page, whatever, but broadly general sort of matches to what they may be looking for.
Okay.
Those experiences don't really deliver exactly what the customer wants, though, right? Like maybe they are asking about service intervals for my car. Landing them at the schedule service page might not actually be the experience they want, right?
It doesn't answer their
It
question. So
doesn't
I
answer the
really
question.
like this. Meet the customer where they are,
And the beauty
right?
now, yeah, like you can build a myriad of intent driven, meaningful, informative customer experiences on your site for next to nothing.
So let
And
me
then
interrupt.
take your paid and focus it on the stuff that really converts instead of all of the ancillary stuff. So it's almost flipped that sort of dynamic on its head.
Which is what I was just realizing as you're answering the question, and it makes a lot of sense, but you didn't say anything about a landing page. You just said an experience,
Yeah, I
and
mean, here,
that's a
we
takeaway
think
for
about landing pages in the context of, hey, a user might want to know more about a car, a particular model. And yeah, we would have historically referred to that as a model landing page, but typically model landing pages are either thin in their content or they're templated. And basically, your model landing page is the same as every other Chevy dealer's model landing page for that model in the country who uses that provider of model landing pages.
right.
Whereas now you can deliver truly a unique experience with that model in with unique content and potentially compelling calls to action around your dealership, your service promise, all of the other things, and and have it be truly yours, right? Have a model comparison be actually yours. You need an event page for the Memorial Day event that's going on. Well, what do you also need with that landing page? You don't necessarily, it's not just the page that you need the customer experience. You need the TV script that drops to the page, you need the radio script, you need the performance max ads, the Facebook ad copy, you need the email template, you need the BDC call scripts, you need the best practice guides for the BDC to handle that effectively, you need the follow-up emails for the people who did buy, didn't buy, etc. Like all of that to do it right and deliver the experience that you're trying to promise that customer, that's hard, right? And
It,
even if you have a great agency working on it, expensive because it's a lot of work for the agency to orchestrate all of that. In their defense, worth every penny.
yeah, no devalue there. I mean, to have a lead on that project, okay? As a former agency owner, I know that I'm going to have someone consumed for 2 hours making sense of all of that. Putting it together, that's separate. Like
Yeah, a
just to
thousand percent.
right? So, we've already spent all of the time on the briefs and the campaign and like that's also a significant investment. Now we need to translate all of that. And then we have to bring in copywriters, designers, SEO, paid search, account management. We have to communicate. We're going to need dev. Like there is a lot
Yeah.
that goes into that.
And
So
the
when your agents,
efficiencies for HRIZN, like, and that starts to paint an effective picture of where HRIZN drives like sea change efficiency at large agencies, right?
okay, so is number two, I don't want to load your lips here, but like so out of this three-step roadmap, right? And we're gonna meet the customer where they are, right? Putting the customer hat on. And sometimes, just as a pro tip to the dealers, it isn't necessarily going to be what you like. You might not like something about it, but that doesn't make it like two things can be true. It could
Yeah, I
still be the
mean,
best
so
solution.
It's a good point. I think, there is a balance to be struck there. One of the real sort of powerful pieces of what we've built is like a massive research engine when I go to create any piece of content. So rather than just, oh, cool, AI wrote me a piece of content, like that content is purposeful in the context that whatever you wanted to write about, HRIZN goes and gut checks that against actual traffic and high volume queries and says, okay, I understand you want to write about this thing, but we're actually going to align it with all of these high volume things that people ask when they're interested in that general category
Yeah.
so that we actually capture traffic with the thing that you want to create.
Yes.
And yeah, I mean, for dealers, sometimes it might not align with the old way that they've thought about marketing or TV advertising or whatever else. But we're not trying to be prescriptive with it, just helpful, right? One of the beautiful pieces of it is the output content is in a full editor. So the dealer or their agency, they can come in and add their own elements and enhance it and match it to their liking, right? So I think the key is really, whatever your flavor is, and there's training capability in there to sort of train the platform. Like, hey, here's how we talk about the store. We're always out front with the blue gorilla on the roof, and this is our, value statement. Like whoever the dealer is, it will sort of understand that and align with it and try and paint the context in that sort of palette. But at that point, like we leave that space for the dealer to sort of collaborate with the AI to bring content that not only meets the customer where they are, but meets the dealer where their vision of their brand is. But then it's not just content, right? It's like, oh, well, this content needs a bunch of social citations to point back to it. And then, oh my God, now I've got organic social posts that are actually meaningful and point to a meaningful experience for the user rather than just yelling into the void on social, right?
Okay, so there's a high level of consistency and continuity approaching this from a content creation standpoint.
Yeah, we think
It's
of it as like multi-pronged, right? Like
yeah,
if you're going to invest in a good content marketing strategy, it shouldn't just be creating pages on your website.
right. And that's what
It
I'm
should be
trying.
about like what is the customer's experience with that content? How can we bring them into that content wherever they are, right? Whatever feed they might be doom scrolling, whatever search engine they might be querying. How do we bring them into that content in a way that captures them and then delivers them something of value? And then how from that content do we then sort of naturally deliver them other helpful experiences within the website, whether it's links into relevant inventory or scheduling service or getting a trade appraisal or all the other things that dealers are used to sort of monitoring as a meaningful conversion.
So
And I will tell you that like programmatic marketers, like people that really understand full funnel on the paid ad side, see this writing on the wall. Because boy, when we can fill up that funnel all up and down the shopper journey, both variable and fixed ops, what it does is the minute they touch our site, we've now identified that customer. They're in our CDP, they're in our ad platforms. And even if they were just looking at how do I fix this peeling weather stripping on my, Audi A, 18 days later, when they realize, oh shit, maybe I just want to buy a new A4, and they go to Google and search new A4 lease offers, well, your Google account already knows who that customer is. They can execute a bid priority on that customer and win it for exponentially less than all the competitors in the auction, right? So, like, not to mention retargeting tags get placed on that customer, right? Like the footprint on the ad side gets drastically expanded when you're delivering drastically expanded footprint on the organic side.
it takes your audiences to just a whole different level. You're
Whole
targeting
different level.
to the next level. It seems to provide this whole set of financial benefits
efficiency benefits across the board.
Yeah.
And frankly, data benefits, right? Like we've just started talking to CDP companies about this. But I mean, think about when your CDP doesn't just have, oh, they visited a service page, 20 days ago, or they visited an offers page. But they can say over the last year and a half, they've increased this frequency of looking at A4 service related content on your site.
Yeah.
And all of a sudden now they're moving into your sales offers and stuff. And suddenly now the CDP is empowered with a tremendous amount of deep context on that customer and their intent as it's changing.
Yeah. And again, like the experience that can be crafted and then the data that follows that over time, obviously the longer the period of time and the more of those opportunities that you identify, you have this arsenal, and it's no longer data, metrics, and KPIs, it's business intelligence. And that's that's how you get into this data driven mindset, what dealers are actually accustomed to, right? Working with their OEMs and in variable and fixed operations. But now
Yes.
that carries into their marketing and website performance, the actual digital footprint. And of course, there's always the concern of like this data maybe becoming siloed and not as accessible. So that's probably a topic for another podcast.
Yeah. I mean, we could riff on that on another
Yeah,
episode. I will tell you, like, what's the only real thing is the customer PII.
right.
Everything else is, and it's also hashed now, that the moment that customer self identifies, they could be matched back to a hashed journey of an unknown customer. With a good CDP and good data cleansing processes, which, like, let's be honest, is still in its infancy, but there are companies out there executing that well now. Um, uh, being able to match back to customer interactions with site content over longer periods of time can be tremendously informative in customer lifecycle management, maximization of customer lifetime value, et cetera. So we see significant opportunities to engage and share data across partners. Like, the nice thing with us is we don't transport any PII. I had a big data company the other day tell me, like, oh my God, you guys are like almost like a content clean room. And it's like, yeah, I mean, conceivably you could send us any type of payload of demographic data or audience data, and we
Right.
could deliver you content tailored to that audience, right?
Right.
So yeah, and that piece, just sort of staying disciplined about staying away from the customer. We don't really care who the customer is. We care what they care about. And we're just focused on delivering that meaningful content to dealers, to agencies, to tech companies in this space.
I like that.
I think you're probably going to have to edit out some background noise. My dog is,
I hear your dog. It's
yeah,
fine. Yeah,
someone is here.
obvious. So, Matt, this has been, first of all, a pleasure and a very insightful. There were a few things that I picked up. I know we've spent a few sessions really, getting deeper on the HRIZN platform, and I'm excited for the industry. I know that we're on the precipice and in the midst of this revolution, and AI is a big part of it, and a lot of dealers aren't sure how to navigate it. So all of that's been, very beneficial. To recap, you have to not stay static, be willing to explore change, and align yourself with the individuals, vendors, agencies, partners that understand your business and are willing to, look at new things and embrace these changes. That's how you capitalize on being a true innovator in the space and not being left behind. You want to be the one that's creating that margin from your peers and competitors in your market by understanding how to evolve. And don't be afraid of failure. Embrace it and be able to identify it. Matt, can you tell us, where can listeners find you and learn more about HRIZN?
Yeah, 100%. I mean, obviously, I'm on LinkedIn. If anyone wants to connect with me personally, I got a book meeting link there. I'm open book, happy to connect, talk shop, whatever. They can definitely go to HRIZN.io is our website. HRIZN.io. That's HRIZN. And yeah, I mean, sign up for the platform. Free around and find out, as we like to say. Every dealer in the country can try it for free. Every dealer in the country can frankly use it for free for a couple content pieces a month. I recommend you just use it, right? And once you get familiar with it, our packages are really inexpensive, easy to adopt. And frankly, like from a value delivery perspective, we aspire to be as indispensable as a vAuto, right? Like we really aspire to deliver so much ridiculous value to the dealer that we're never a consideration of whether or not we stay on the list. So yeah, I mean, dealers definitely check it out. In the fairly near future here, we will also have a partner page propped up on the site. If you prefer to explore agencies that provide a service layer over the top of HRIZN, we have 5 in place now with probably a handful more coming before the end of the quarter. And yeah, we're here to help this industry thrive, help support meaningful change in the AI space. And also, other companies. We really don't view ourselves as a competitor as much as we do view ourselves as pipes to enable acceleration for everyone and be a part of this renaissance as much as we can. So if there's companies that are looking to rapidly accelerate the AI communications capabilities in their software, templating in their software, etc., CRM, CDPs, website CMS platforms, we've talked to quite a few of those. Yeah, we're here for it. We're eager for every conversation and definitely built for scale to be able to support thousands of clients tomorrow if we were so fortunate to encounter them.
Well, look, that's awesome. Appreciate all of the color. And if this episode of Dealer Insights lit a fire inside of you, share it with a GM, with your dealer, marketing director, kick it to your agency or your current SEO vendor. There's no
Like,
wrong answer.
subscribe, share, yeah, all that good stuff. Smash
Yeah.
those buttons.
Yeah, and give us some feedback on this episode, whether you're watching along on YouTube and you got to see all these mugs, at least they're covered up with a hat today, or listening on Apple or Spotify. Give us some feedback. Give a like. We appreciate you as always, and we'll catch you on the next one. Peace out, Matt.
Thanks, Mike.